right, later we'll bring you an in-depth discussion about the role of corporates in state capture in South Africa, specifically Bain and Company. We'll speak to a prominent whistleblower who blew the whistle on Bain, its involvement in SARS, and then Lord Peter Hain, who has tried to raise this issue, put it on the agenda globally. First this, the Black Management Forum says it does not want companies that are complicit in state capture to be allowed to operate. It comes as the US management consultancy firm has withdrawn from another business grouping after the state capture inquiry report, part 1, was scathing of Bain's involvement in the destruction of parts of SARS. Bain says it does not want its membership of Business Leadership South Africa to distract from the work that organisation does. Business Leadership did suspend Bain as a member of the group in September 2018 following the damning findings of the Nugent Commission, but it readmitted Bain as a member after it repaid the tax agency millions it had earned for its work at SARS plus interest. Now, Bain says it unwittingly damaged the revenue service, but it denies willingly supporting state capture. It says it's disappointed that part 1 of the Commission's report mischaracterises its role at SARS. To discuss, we're joined by the Deputy President at the Black Management Forum, that's Esethu Mancotywa. Thank you for being with us, Ms. Mancotywa. Firstly, are you disappointed that there's still a huge element of denial here from Bain? It has always suggested that there was one rogue partner, essentially.
Good evening to the listeners of SABC. It is actually disappointing, but it's not surprising. The report really, and even the testimony as you watched it, placed Bain quite centrally at the capture of SARS, to an extent that they were literally at the table with President Jacob Zuma when the planning of the capture of SARS took place. They then proceeded to work with Tom Moyane to hollow out SARS by means of removing effective and efficient, committed and ethical executives and replacing them with real pliable co-conspirators to kind of disarm SARS and kind of weaken the systems in SARS, which allowed it to be an efficient tax revenue collector, number 1, and number 2, which allowed SARS to go after tax evaders. If you think about it, the taxes that SARS collects actually form part of the pool from which the government provides services to South Africa. And that's why this is so upsetting. It's not sufficient that Bain was asked to pay back 164 million plus interest, because they have that money. So it's not punitive enough for them to desist from ever doing this again. And also the impact is much wider than whatever fee they were paid by SARS for this work. Because as I say, the taxes collected by SARS are used to educate our children, for healthcare, for sanitation, for provision of water, for provision of electricity. You have instances of children falling into pit toilets today because of lack of service delivery. And that can actually be directly linked to the state capture project. And so for us, the consequences against Bain have been wholly inadequate, and we are absolutely not satisfied with their defense.
I think you've summed it up beautifully. I mean, the economic damage was huge, even affecting the social fabric of our society. So you say it should go as far as Bain never being allowed to work again in South Africa.
Yes, that's what we say. If you look at the Bell Pottinger scenario, Bell Pottinger was dealt with by the Public Relations Communication Authority in the UK so decisively that, number 1, they couldn't operate anymore with the same people at the helm. They couldn't find anybody to buy the entity. They couldn't get new business, and they had to file for bankruptcy. Why is it that in South Africa, we seem to mollycoddle these companies, and we find the consequences that they face in other jurisdictions are worse than what they face here, when these projects are actually destroying South Africa, and the socioeconomic impact on South Africa is massive. So we really don't understand it. Even if you look at Bain, Lord Peter Hain in the UK had petitioned the UK government not to do business with Bain until there was an outcome of the prosecution by the NPA, and they proved that they had cooperated with the NPA. So all I'm trying to contrast here is that in other jurisdictions, they take very decisive action against companies who commit these kind of crimes. But we seem to want to mollycoddle them in South Africa, where the impact has been felt the worst.
And we'll speak to Lord Peter Hain in a few minutes to find out how he plans to continue that campaign. So Business Leadership South Africa, a different business body, took a different stance. It allowed them to regain their membership after Bain paid back that money, said that was a sign of accountability. Bain also showed that it was doing things differently and it was not inherently corrupt. So that's a different take. At what point do you believe companies could be rehabilitated if they could be?
For us, companies involved, to the extent that Bain was at the center of aiding and abetting state capture, for us, should completely be banned from doing business with South Africa. We are unequivocal about that. We don't see how they can actually reform themselves. And actually, if you look at the Bain scenario, we are not convinced that they've actually instituted these reforms that BLSA speak about. You had the South African partner of Bain, Ethel Williams, saying that Bain actually wasn't very cooperative with the Nugent Commission, and even with the Zondo Commission, they were not forthcoming in terms of providing the level of witnesses and evidence that was requested of them. Prof. Bonang Mohale, when he suspended Bain in 2018, mentioned that after numerous meetings with Bain, they were told that the MD of the South African company had been fired, only to find that this gentleman was actually promoted and deployed to the Middle Eastern region. So when you look at all of these factors together, it actually points of a company where corruption is actually so institutionalized, and we are honestly not convinced that they have reformed sufficiently to be given this grace. But even if they have, we are unequivocal that companies who were at the center of aiding and abetting state capture should be barred from doing business in South Africa.
All right, thank you for your time tonight, Deputy President at the Black Management Forum, Esethu Mancotywa.